Internal Revenue Service IRS tax news. IRS warns people about COVID-related text message scam. COVID tax tip 2020-167, December 8, 2020. The IRS and its Security Summit partners, there's a link to the Security Summit here, are warning people to be aware of a new text message scam. The thief's goal is to trick people into revealing bank account information under the guise of receiving a $1,200 economic impact payment. So they're targeting, obviously, the text messages, they're targeting the phones here, and they're running the scam related to the economic impact payments, and they're trying to get banking information, basically saying, you can imagine the message here saying, hey, look, the IRS is trying to give out the economic impact payment, but they need to give it directly into your bank account, and we don't have your bank account, and it's a limited time that we have this $1,200 that we're going to give out, so you got to give us, like, your bank account, like, right now. And so you can imagine that type of text messaging there. So here's how this scam works. People get a text message saying they have, quote, received a direct deposit of $1,200 from COVID-19 Treasury Fund. Further action is required to accept this payment. Continue here to accept this payment, end quote. The text includes a link to a phishing web address. This fake link appears to come from a state agency or relief organization. It takes people to a fake website that looks like the IRS.gov Get My Payment website. If people visit the fake website and enter their personal financial account information, the scammers can collect it. So they got the link on there, right? And the link goes to a site that looks kind of like an IRS website, that looks like the Get My Payment website. And there's a link to the Get My Payment website here. And then it's going to ask for the information to basically verify. And that's when they get the banking information. So if you get any text like this and you're like, I'd like to check this out because it's really tempting. I would really like to have $1,200. So the IRS will not ever text anybody about an economic impact payment. That's not how they will contact you. But again, you might look at these things and say, I'd like to research on it or something like that. What you don't do is research by clicking the link in the text, right? What you want to do is go directly to the IRS website and then go from there. So do your research, in a separate computer possibly on the website and go directly to the website rather than going to the link. That way you know that you are legitimately on the IRS website rather than a link that, is going somewhere other, which not sure. You can't be sure if the link is taking you to a legit website or not, because you're not sure whether the phishing scam is a scam or not. So you want to go to the website independently if you want to look into it in more detail. So here's what people should do if they receive this message. Anyone who receives this scam text should take a screenshot and include the screenshot in the email to phishing@irs.gov. So you want to basically email it, take a screenshot, email it to the government, so the IRS, so that they can compile the information and hopefully track these people down. So then you want the following information related to it: the date, time zone that they received the text message, the phone number that received the text message. So the IRS doesn't send unsolicited text emails. So if you get a text message, that's just not the way the IRS really works, and you can, let people know that the text is not typically the way. Usually you're going to get a mail. Mail is the way the IRS works because they're a slow bureaucratic agency. So they typically like the mail. They'll send you a letter, then they'll send you another letter. Now, if you're in collections or something, it might be a little bit, but usually, you have a pretty good idea that what the IRS wants, because they send you a letter over and over. But of course, this is an unusual situation because we have these economic impact payments which were rushed out as part of a solution to a problem. And so it's something unusual. So it can't, you can see why people would look at it differently. It's not like when the IRS is trying to collect, where people typically have known well in advance because the IRS slowly sends letters out, all the time when they're going to be taking collection action typically. But again, so that's why this economic impact payment is, a scam haven for for scammers. So, but in any case, the agency will never demand immediate payment using gift card, prepaid debit card, or wire transfer, or threaten to have taxpayers arrested. So obviously, anytime they threaten to say, we're going to arrest you, or we're going to, have the cops go over there like right now or something like that. Again, the IRS doesn't usually work that quickly. You're not going to, it's usually a slower process before the action is taken. Action will be taken in a long, slow process where you're usually very aware of what is happening. Also note that not just with the IRS scams, but with any scam, obviously the problem point for the scammer is the point where they're going to get the money. Like, how are they going to get the money? Even if they have access to your checking account, then if they just wire transfer money out to another account, then there's an audit trail on it. So once you realize that they have done that, then there could be an audit trail. So the problem oftentimes with just about any scam where they're trying to get money ultimately is how are you going to get the actual money transferred at the end of the process. And so usually if you're thinking, well, this sounds kind of like legitimate. I mean, I've heard scams where they're basically like, they'll call someone up and say, someone's in jail in another state that or something like that, and you need to wire money for bail or so, I mean, and it sounds, you can say, oh, that sounds kind of legitimate until they want the money in gift cards or something like that. And that's usually the point where you're like, well, why would you need the money in gift cards? Because if they got it in any other way, there'd be an audit trail of it typically, so if they want it in cash, you can't really have cash these days because you're not in person. So they got to transfer it electronically somehow. And the electronic transfer is usually, if they're asking for some weird or very specific electronic transfer of the funds, then that should raise flags for you saying this doesn't sound legit. So in any case, more information, IRS impersonation scams report here. There's a link to that. Consumer alerts and phone scams. There's links to these items. There'll be a link to this in the description.